Good afternoon, everyone. They say it takes a village. Well, today it took seven of us to unpack Japan's economic journey. Here we go. But before going further, let me introduce you to our team members. We have Abu Said, we have Rabina, we have Faiza, we have Alamin Sheikh, we have Nasiruddin, we have Abdullah Mansur Shah, and last but not the least, we have Zainab. Now, you all must be wondering why Japan? Imagine a country so behind in 1850 that American warships literally sailed into its harbor to force it to open up. And within just 50 years, that same country had defeated European superpower in war. That country is Japan. We chose Japan because its story is unlike anything else in economic history. A nation that went from feudal farms to bullet trains, from isolation to the world's largest second economy till 2010. But here's the twist. After all that success, Japan spent 30 years barely growing. So, Japan isn't just a success story, it's a warning. And that's exactly what makes it worth studying. Next slide. Think of Japan's history as three acts. Act 1, Tokugawa period, is the quiet build-up. No wars, stable government, and surprisingly, one of the highest literacy in the world at a time when most countries had none. Act 2, the Meiji Restoration, is where everything explores. In 1868, Japan looked at the Western world and said, we are going to learn everything, adapt everything, and catch up to everyone. And they did in decades, not centuries. Act 3, post World War II. Japan rebuilds the rubble and creates the fastest economic growth the world had never seen. 3x, one extraordinary story.
After World War II, Japan experienced an economical miracle. With GDP growing at around 9% annually, this rapid growth transformed Japan into one of the world's leading economies. A key driver was strong government support through MITI, which guided major industries like automobile and electronics. Japan also followed an export led growth strategy, producing high quality goods for global markets. As a result, Japan became a global leader in manufacturing. However, this rapid expansion later contributed to economical challenges in the following decades.
Hi everyone, this is Alamin Sheikh. I'm talking about Japan lost decades 1992 2010. Japan economics declined after the early 1990 when the asset bubble collapsed, property and the stock price fell sharply. This triggered a deflation means price kept falling and economic activity slow, leading to weak growth. The banking sector suffered because many loans become unpaid, creating a long-term financial problem. Structural efficiency in industries and institutions also reduced productivity and made economic recovery slow and difficult. What is the current economic in Japan? GDP 4.2 trillion means the Japan produces about 4.2 trillion worth of goods service each year. High income development economy means Japan is a rich and advanced country with strong industries, good infrastructure, and high standard of living. HDI 0.925 means people in Japan enjoy long life expectancy, good education, and high quality of life. Public debt 255% of GDP means the government owns a very large amount of money compared to the size its economy showing heavy boarding and overtime. Thank you for your time. If you have any question, let us know. I'm pass your work to Abu Said.
Hello everyone. On this slide, we focus on the internal factor that shape Japan's economical performance. First, Japan has a strong government's political stability, which support long-term economical planning and the policy consistency. Second, monetary policy plays a major role. The Bank of Japan has used aggressive tools such as quantitative easing and negative interest rate to stimulate growth and fight deflation. However, Japan also faces challenges, especially it is a very high public debt, whose limit fiscal flexibility. Finally, the labor market shows the dualism, meaning there is a gap between a secure full-time worker and the less stable part-time and the contract worker, which affect the productivity and income equality. Now we are looking external factor. Japan is highly integrated into the global economy. It is major exporter, especially automobile, electronics, and advanced manufacturing, which makes global demand very important for the growth. Japan is also part of major trade agreement like CPTPP and RCEP, which help expand the market access, strengthen trade relationship. Um, Japan is one of the world largest investor abroad through foreign direct investment, which support global supply chain as well. However, this global integration also makes Japan vulnerable to external shocks, such as global recession or the supply chain breakdown.
Decision-making strategies. Japan is highly dependent on its global trade, which means changes in the international market directly affect its economy. Additionally, external shocks like global recessions or geopolitical tensions can quickly impact its economic stability. So, to manage these challenges, Japan adopts careful policy trade-offs. For example, it must balance monetary easing with inflation control and also fiscal stimulus with rising public debt. Moreover, policymakers face a difficult choice between structural control and structural reform and maintaining social stability. Now, looking at the data-driven sides, Japan's public debt has increased significantly from around 141% to 255% of GDP. At the same time, inflation has stayed low for many years, but recently it has started to rise. Another major issue is the aging population, reducing the labor supply.
Hello everyone, I'm Ravina Pokhrel and our title is Japan Economic Development and my part is data driven insight and key challenges. Looking at the data driven insight, Japan economic structure shows several important trends. First, public debt has increased significantly, rising from about 141 to 225 of GDP, which raises concern about long-term financial stability. Second, Japan experienced low inflation for many years, but recently inflation has started to increase, indicating a shift economic condition. Another key factor is aging population, which is reducing the labor supply and affecting overall productivity. Despite these challenges, Japan continued to maintain a high human development index, reflecting strong performance in education, healthcare, and living standard. Okay, and another part is key challenges. The most critical issue is aging and shrinking population, which limits workforce availability and economic growth. In addition, there are increasing fiscal sustainability risks due to a high level of public debt. Japan also faces a low productivity growth, and especially in certain sectors which slow economic expansion. Finally, labor market inequality particularly between permanent and temporary workers, create gap in income and job security. And in conclusion, while Japan remain a high development economy, addressing these structural challenges is essential for sustaining long-term growth and stability. For another part, is Janet going to help you? Thank you.
Japan's economic future presents several key opportunities. First, digital transformation and artificial intelligence are expected to improve productivity and efficiency across industries. This will help businesses become more competitive in global markets. At the same time, Japan is investing heavily in green energy, positioning itself as a leader in sustainability and clean technologies. In addition, the country maintains strong global trade leadership, especially in sectors like automobiles and electronics. Finally, it continued focus on innovation and advanced technology supports long-term economic growth. In conclusion, Japan remains one of the world's leading developed economies with a strong industrial base and global influence in technology and manufacturing. Over the decades, it has successfully transformed into a highly advanced and competitive economy. However, Japan is currently facing significant long-term structural challenges. One of the most critical issues is its aging population, which leads to a shrinking workforce and increased pressure on the social systems. In addition, the country has experienced relatively slow economic growth in recent years. Despite these challenges, Japan still has strong potential for the future. Its continued focus on innovation, technological advancements, and global competitiveness will play a key role in sustaining growth. Therefore, the country's long term success will largely depend on its ability to implement effective structural reforms and adapt to changing global economic conditions.